All right, Tony, Olympic View Development. Here's the situation. So I got a ceiling fan that I'm putting up, but a common thing that happens is the color of the living room that we've already decided that we're gonna paint the living room. This fan, it's not the right color. So I'm getting ready to, I gotta take certain parts of the base of the fan apart because I'm gonna paint the exterior of the fan. And I'm gonna see how that comes out. So that's what I'm doing. Just propped it up on an old piece of drywall. And I'm just gonna paint this thing. So I already got the color codes of everything that's gonna match in there. And so this color is gonna match. So let's do it. All right, Tony with Olympic View Development. So simple, easy way to paint a ceiling fan. So this one part here, that little cover bracket that goes up over the top, I just ran a first coat on this right here because I'm painting it this brownish color. Now, when it comes to the fan itself, I just propped it up on our little beer waste trailer because it was a nice little area, and if it starts looking like it wants to rain or something in the middle of this, I can just go ahead and cover this whole thing up. But anyway, the first step really is you want to take all the screws out of the fan that disconnect the motor unit from this outer casing. And what you'll have then is you'll have the motor just kind of flopping around inside of the metal casing. So then you take a trash bag and you just filter it up through the bottom all the way around. You're gonna have to get like a coat hanger or something, just kind of fish it through. It's not really hard to do at all. I did it with a little keyhole saw because I barely had to use the keyhole saw. I just used one of these to kind of fish it up through there until you get the bag all the way around the motor, and you can bring it out through the other hole on the other side. So now you have a motor in a bag, and then you throw the wires in there. You can kind of close it up, get it out of the way. So that way, because you don't want any of that paint to get down these holes and get on the brushes of the motor or on any of the electrical components. So now that's protected, and now you just have this outer area to play with. Now there was a couple of stickers on here, but I took the other stickers off. And this one sticker, I don't want to take that off. I mean, it's kind of hard to peel off. So I'm just going to take a little piece of frog tape and a utility knife and put the frog tape on there, cut around it, just so I can leave that sticker on. And so next, it'll be the painting. Next thing to remember is when you're painting this thing, it's just like you're painting anything else. Soft, slow, artistic strokes. You don't start moving too fast. Don't stay in one spot too long, because that'll dry. You gotta let it dry before you start putting too much paint on one area. Because if you put too much paint on one area before the other coat is dried, you'll start getting runs. And it'll look real nasty. It'll look like somebody painted it. So I'm gonna paint this up, and I'm gonna come back and let you see what it looks like. Okay, so now I got the first little coat. Got the first coat on here. Like I said, you gotta go slow, be patient, and give it some time to dry. Because as I'm letting this dry, because it doesn't take long to let it dry, it can just take a few minutes. It needs something to stick to. The next coat you put on there has to have a little something to stick to, period. So if you keep putting paint on there while it's not dry because you're thinking, oh, that area is not painted good enough. Nope, light coats. Because I'm at 0% running right now. And while I was wetting this dry right here, while this was drying, I was able to, I said wetting this dry, new word. So while this was drying while I was wetting this dry, I was able to come over and do this part some more, put some more coats on this. And then after a few minutes, I can come back and I can keep switching back and forth. Then I'll have to completely let this dry for a while before I can flip it over and get to the other side of this. Don't need to do the other side of this because who's ever going to see that? I mean, that's going to be up in the ceiling. So but it's more so this outer side, this side, and the other side. This side actually is a side facing the ceiling, so it's not really going to be seen, but you'll be able to, if I leave that green, you'll get glimpses of that. And people will say, whoa, that looks pretty tacky. So I'm gonna flip this over in a little bit, but I gotta get some more coats on here. Let that dry, and this will be done pretty soon here. Still watching, making sure it doesn't rain. Our forecast says we're not supposed to have any rain, but you know, they're always 100% right? All right, so looks like I got pretty much all the coats that I want to get on that. Yeah, I'm still at 0 running, both parts. Now I got another little piece I got to pull out here, the little stem that it hangs from. Got to bring that out. But while I'm doing that, it's about time for these parts to dry, because I want to leave enough paint so that I can have enough to do the other side of this. So when I come back, I'll be turning this over and getting the other side. All right, we're back. So what I did was I gave these other little parts probably 4 or 5 coats, let them dry for a while. Then I flipped this fan base over here and I got the other side. So taking your time, you know, giving it the artistic spraying mist. There's a lot of times where you'll feel like you want to give it that extra shot in that same area. You got to stop yourself because it's just going to run. So there's no running on this steel, no running on any of these parts. And there was one part that ran right there, but it didn't run on the part. It actually ran on this old drywall piece. So I got lucky. But everything seemed to turn out, got both sides. So I'm gonna let this dry as much as I can right here, for as long as I can right here. Then I'm gonna cover this and let it dry all the way, give it its proper time to dry before I even think about bringing it in. Because even when these things look like they're dry, they still need pretty much overnight to set in and cure, and because you'll just have that paint smell from that spray paint. You know, it'll just be dominant. So, and sometimes even for a couple of days you'll smell that, but it'll eventually go away once it completely sets all the way. So that's it. Painting a ceiling fan, pretty easy. And it's pretty easy but pretty necessary, because depending on the color that you're going with your living room or room or wherever these things are going to go, these things only come in certain standard colors, and you're going to have to do this if you want your fan and your other little wall items to match everything. And this is a major one here, because it's not like you can just go down and say, okay, I want a burnt sienna number 5 or whatever in these fans. You're gonna have to do that yourself. So Tony, Olympic View Development, painting a ceiling fan. We'll see you soon.